What's going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today we're going to talk to you on Lucid. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what really influenced it today, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So Lucid did go up 1.89% despite a little bit more of a miss on the GDP numbers. So the broader market was kind of on edge, and especially during power hour, there was a broad sell-off as last minute nerves going into PCE on Thursday. When it comes to Lucid though, 28.01 million shares were traded, 48.18 is the average. And looking at some of the transactions, there was a lot more attention coming from big money today, especially in comparison to the last several days. So these are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. So Lucid is getting the attention of big money, so that's kind of a good thing. Technicals are somewhat looking favorable for Lucid, so that's a nice change of events as well. Today there was no actual news. There was that 10K that was submitted yesterday, so I briefly did go through that. I'll do a dedicated video on it later because I've gone through a lot of the basic metrics that investors care about, such as this. They have about 1.3 billion in cash or cash equivalents, 2.4 billion in short-term investments. So all in all, kind of good. Does match with what I've been saying time and time again, that they will be needing to dilute in Q3. But then again, what do I know, right? I'm not a financial advisor. Just been right about every other issuance in the past, but still something to keep in mind. Aside from that though, they haven't diluted all that much. And I just wanted to point this out so you can kind of see the comparison between 2022 and 2023. And so when it comes down to it, I feel like a lot of people as of late have been bringing up bankruptcy. They've been chirping quite a lot. And I get it. Under my channel, I like to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly, especially after the earnings. I feel like a lot of that was negative and ugly. So this is why I'm just portraying it. I'm just reading what the data is saying. But generally, I do like Lucid. And so when a lot of people say that Lucid is going to file bankruptcy, I think they don't really understand that Lucid can dilute up to 15 billion. So that's the authorized shares, right? So with it sitting about 2 and change right now, they have a lot of room to dilute. Of course, that's not good for current shareholders, but for Lucid to survive, they can. So as far as bankruptcy is concerned, I think that's kind of out of the picture. And when it comes down to companies' balance sheet, like if they had a lot of debt on their books, then yes, they could be pushed into bankruptcy by a lot of the creditors. But if they're just basically diluting, like that kind of omits it, jumps over that. So as far as bankruptcy is concerned, I don't think it's in the cards as of yet. And when it comes down to that up to 15 billion for the authorized shares, I'm sure Big Brother behind us are more than willing to kind of stake any money that needs to be done to really help Lucid. Of course, that's more of a caveat question because essentially the more the PIF puts in, it makes them probably second guess and just question like, why don't I just take it private? But that's a whole nother video. Aside from that though, looking at their debt, they just have that long-term debt. It was that 2 whatever notes that's coming due in 2026. And also I'm going to do a side video just going over a lot of the finite wording in this because this is typically where a lot of companies like to hide information. So this is where I'm going to go through most of that 184-page document, read it thoroughly, and then I'll do a follow-up video on a lot of that. So stay tuned for that. Aside from that though, oddly enough, 1/3 of this document was this. So Mark Winterhoff's letter of offer. And I don't know if this is normal because I've seen other 10Ks from even Lucid previous years, and I don't remember seeing any letters of offer. So this might be maybe an error. I have no idea the intention behind this, but upon me reading this, I don't know. Maybe I should move down to the States because Lucid seems to be paying very well. Of course, I'm not going to step into a COO or a CEO role, of course. But even if you look at Mark, and when this came out, so this came out, I think in November, a lot of people were very hyped up about Mark. And yeah, he seems pretty knowledgeable and competent based on his history, but nothing really crazy to write home about. I think a lot of the previous VPs that they've fired, I think a lot of those individuals were very knowledgeable. So of course, to me, Mark didn't really stand out all that much. So when I kind of look at a lot of his compensation package, such as him receiving $595,000 every single year, plus a opportunity to receive up to a 90% of the base salary for a bonus, and gets a one-off signing bonus bonus of 3.3 million right here, and also gets roughly about 3 million in restricted stock that is going to be paid. I think it's over a 4-year span or something along those lines. So he has a pretty good compensation package. But when it comes down to it though, like if you look at a lot of other companies, such as even Rivian, a lot of people like to compare Rivian and Lucid, not even counting what Peter's getting paid, because that's a whole nother issue. But when it comes down to Mark, a new COO, and looking at RJ, who is the CEO of Rivian, he only makes a base salary of 650 million. And I believe he has about a compensation package for stock of around 5 million. So if you think about it, the COO of Lucid gets paid more essentially than the CEO of Rivian. So to me, that comes off as very backwards. And it's kind of ironic the fact that Lucid was saying during their recent earnings that they need to really work on controlling costs, because that did skyrocket comparing to even the previous quarter and to the previous year. But they wonder why. Like, maybe is that why they hired or fired Sherry, because she clearly did not like this? Because why on earth are you paying these individuals as good as they are? Like I said, maybe I should move down to the States and work for Lucid, because even in this document, not part of the letter of offer, but there is that ESPP that they do talk on, where they pay about 85% and match it. And there's a 401k that they match, and it's seems like a pretty good place to work. So if anyone does work for Lucid that watches my videos, just throw a thumbs up in the comments below. But yeah, it seems pretty interesting. And the fact that they're paying Mark as much as they are, I am not really that big of a fan of, but still, whatever it is, what it is. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. The only other thing that essentially came out associated to Lucid was this YouTube video, and it was more so of the Geneva Motor Show. And so this was going to be where Lucid does showcase the Gravity as well as the other airs and other things. So it's pretty cool. I watched about halfway through. Yeah, it's pretty informative and whatever else. The only slip up that this individual does make is he says that the reservations have opened, and I double checked on their website just to ensure, and I don't see anything. So I was on their website. You can kind of go under Gravity. It just says coming soon, or I think at the very top, stay informed. So technically Gravity still hasn't opened as of yet, but whatever, it is what it is. Moving on to some of the data from today, shorts increased a small amount, so about 44 or 45,000. 28.94% of the free float is being shorted. 254.5 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost of borrow average is 88.3%. You do see a broker that really dropped their percentage quite significantly. So the cost of borrow minimum is 0.35%. So that's really incentivizing shorting. But even if you look at the intraday for shorts, they didn't do all that much. So most likely they're just building ammunition just to wait until PCE. Just in case PCE is negative, then they definitely will pounce all over the broader market, including Lucid. So we'll just have to wait for that. As far as options, very bearish. So $560,000 in calls being purchased versus 4.27 million in puts. Sentiment wise, 64% of all the options being done today were bearish. So I don't know what happened with Lucid. So someone must be hedging essentially, maybe due to PCE numbers, or I'm not really sure, but this is very odd and it doesn't really coincide with the volume today. So something odd was happening today. Of the call options that were being purchased, there's a consensus for it to be above $3.50. And looking at puts, it's anticipated for it to be sub $3. Looking right here with it closing at $3.23 though, it is still between this S1 and the pivot. It did kind of get a lot of momentum today, so it attempted a potential run up to this pivot point. So that's kind of a good thing, the fact that Lucid is at least attempting to move up. And I think that had to do with more so big money or larger institutions getting into Lucid today. So of course, that's kind of a good thing. We'll just have to see exactly why. Maybe they were hedging in some way, or I don't know. We'll just once again have to wait and see. Looking at this though, today is still lower percentile, the boiling band. It did attempt to transition into the higher, not really enough there. But looking at stochastic with it at 20, it is considered oversold. So if there's a good piece of news news associated to Lucid, then you are going to see a rush of value investors getting in. But despite that though, you do see the start of a deviation. So white line above the red showing a nice bullish sentiment is starting to form. Number of retail investors were starting to slowly get back in after kind of exiting since the 15th. So maybe they are sensing a potential bottom around that $3 range. So we'll just have to see, but overall I think the technicals are looking somewhat more optimistic than what they were. Looking at options, abnormally very bearish. I'm not really sure why and what the basis is for that. Maybe it is to do with GDP numbers and then as well with PCE coming out tomorrow. And short's not really doing all that much today. I see this as a little bit more optimistic. Through Interactive Broker short availability as well, it does indicate around 50,000 shares is available to be shorted. So all in all, pretty successful day I think for Lucid. So let me know your thoughts. Give yourself a shout out. Did you buy? Did you sell? What did you do with Lucid? One final thing, take advantage of this promo. As I always say with you, there's only a couple days left. Simply sign up for an account with Moomoo. Through $100 at it, you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So take advantage of this. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.